more on false past, how it is studied, and time travel. Hello, thank you for passing by my channel. I hope you are all happy and well. I am Mari. This information can be seen as science fiction, or as the viewer sees best, and I post it for entertainment purposes only. Still, I take my information very seriously, for whoever has eyes to see. In the past few videos about false past and social resets, we discussed that when history is scrutinized, too many things don't add up. When this occurs, it is easy to conclude that the reason why things don't add up is because we don't know all the facts. And this is what usually happens, because, with missing pieces of information, it is easy to fill in the blanks with our own reasons and theories, in an effort to explain what is not understood, yet doing this is also what distorts and destroys all the facts, especially when we mix our own egos, which most often than not, think that our theories must be right simply because they came from us. We all take for granted that we know enough to be able to explain away correctly whatever we do not fully understand, or whatever thing we cannot see and know all its facts. Although this psychological problem is right, and we must be vigilant about ourselves when we are studying, or scrutinizing something, when we come to false past, the circumstantial and not so circumstantial evidence does start to pile up in favor of all history being false. When you study history with a critical eye, what happens is the same as when we study the paranormal. At first, all the evidence points towards that everything is made up, and that ghosts, apparitions and so on are only hallucinations, or lies formulated by people with no ethics and perhaps only for a laugh, or the phenomenon may be caused by any number of things that are natural and normal, but do end up confusing and misleading any righteous person into believing he or she has seen something very unusual. This is often the case with unidentified flying objects, and the hard truth is that many, if not most, of the sightings are of misunderstood normal things, such as atmosphere thermic reflections caused by inverted heat layer dynamics. In the case of history, the first thing a person will encounter as they scrutinize it is that things do add up, and they do perfectly as all the data presented in the history books back up what is said in the other. Furthermore, countless documents validate events and the dates in which they occurred. Then what all that history is presenting as a logical and perfectly understandable line of events is also backed by scientific, or science-based facts which corroborate the narrative from another angle. Most people will stay at this level when studying history, as they will see no point in scrutinizing or even doubting the official narrative. And even when something comes out that contradicts the narrative, or simply does not fit into it, it is quickly set aside with the thought dynamics I explained at the beginning of this video, stating that we simply do not know all the facts, and this is also a logical assumption due to the simple fact that not everything can, or could ever be recorded into the history books, therefore holes should appear and they would also be expected to happen. The old saying that history is written by the victors comes in to illustrate all this said here perfectly, noting as well, that most history is only a recollection of one war after another, and the socio-political dynamics that lead to those wars. And this could be one of the first signs that something is not right with the line of events that is presented to us in history's official narrative. Because knowing a little bit about how the world really works, its real power dynamics used by the controllers, being them, secret societies, the Galactic Federation and so on, what would be recorded into the history books would have to be what the oligarchs in power want the people to think. Because those in power have no interest in telling the people the truth about anything. What they want and need is for the people to conform to what they want, so they are docile and obedient and, therefore, easy to exploit. It is at this point where we can start to see that things are not well with the official narrative of history, assuming that the people will be told the truth is the first big mistake while studying this subject. Adding to this, the people do record history for themselves, and this leaves the ones in power no other choice but to damage control, removing, disqualifying and destroying all recorded evidence that goes against their official narrative, and therefore against their interests. Although today that is easy to see with all the censorship that is being imposed onto all social media platforms, and the removal of sensitive books from public libraries and so on, this is nothing new, as this kind of government censorship has always taken place. It was easier in the past, because of no internet information superhighway, but we can see many examples of this, like the well-known Alexandria Library burning, as well as countless others through the ages. And the confiscation of countless books, documents and sensitive objects, by secret societies which end up sending everything relevant enough into the Vatican's subterranean warehouses, which are an endless pit of information, a crypt where everything that contradicts the official narrative disappears forever. Another example of this is the archaeologist Howard Carter and his benefactor Lord Carnarvon, who discovered King Tutankhamun's burial chamber in the Valley of Kings in Egypt. The public is led to think that they were only archaeologists, but the facts now are that they were financed and sent by the Rockefeller Foundation to control whatever was to be found there, before any other real archaeologist could get his hands on the content of the burial chamber, because those would be strong evidence that history is false. For example, it is now leaking out to the public that King Tutankhamun had a dagger buried with him, and it was made with non-human materials, or materials not found on Earth. It is only when someone is dedicated and smart enough to add up all these kinds of so-called historical anomalies, including objects that are out of their time, that the official historical narrative starts to fall apart. Each piece of history, each foundation concept on which the official narrative is based, starts to get other explanations, and they quickly start adding up, finally collapsing the official narrative. But, to get to this point, you need a lot of motivation, dedication, and time, and few people have that nowadays, as they are all completely overwhelmed with survival in the 3D matrix and, therefore have no energy to go into these sorts of things and subjects. They prefer to simply follow the official narrative, they simply do not care, because it is a lot more comfortable for them to simply have other people think for them. This is also because the vast majority of the population of planet Earth has been conditioned to follow orders since they were very little, therefore will always feel that they have no authority to even question anything that they are told, also entering into the same thought dynamics of assuming that they do not know all the facts, which I explained at the beginning of this video. I must mention here that it is for that purpose exactly why and how schools are created on Earth, not only to push false manipulated information into young minds, but also to shape and condition them into adopting a submissive and obedient personality profile, which is incapable of questioning anything. Just about all relevant history on Earth contained in the official narratives is false. It is impossible to explain why in a single video or series of videos, as all the data that is needed, and that must be accumulated to even start to understand why, is vast and interconnected with other subjects, so understanding history is a complicated and energy-consuming endeavor, but it is rewarded with something few people can understand, and why it is. It is rewarded with escaping the matrix on Earth. But for that to be the result, each person must do the job, walk the path, on his or her own, and learn to draw their personal conclusions. As with everything that has to do with history and more, all I can do is share what I've seen, know, and what I've come to understand. And I've come to understand that living in space studying humanity from more or less afar, although it does help, and does place me in a position of advantage, does not let me understand everything, as many people assume it must. Most people think that we must know everything, especially Earth's real history, even more, because we have mastered time travel, as many of you know. I must make another video explaining this in detail, even though perhaps it has been published many times before by my predecessors, in Gosha's Cosmic Agency, and Robert's Spanish channel Despejando Enigmas. But I must write on that subject yet again, not only because I would expose what I personally know about time travel, from my angle, but also because those subjects tend to get buried under countless more recent videos, and there are many new people here who must know all this before we can continue. But time travel does not help much to explain or to study history, because it becomes a navigation labyrinth, where you end up not being able to find out where you are, or where you have landed. Furthermore, what is found out during time travel does not add up with the official historical narrative. This also backs up our claims that it is false, but also exposes the simple fact that navigating time is extremely complicated, because it is not linear, and you easily end up landing on an alternative timeline. Making things even worse, you cannot simply land somewhere and sometime, and ask a person what year it is, because most people back then didn't even know when they were living, or they may observe another type of calendar, or they have also been lied upon, also as a consequence of the multiple social resets the Earth and its population has gone through. You do not program dates into a time-jumping starship's navigation computer, because it works with elaborate mass value and vibrational frequency maps, and not with matrix-imposed false dates and the numbers associated with them. All this process of studying Earth's history has also uncovered something a lot more disturbing for us here, and it is that stellar people are also in a manipulated perception matrix, also under a controlling cabal of some sort, only a lot larger, and also tailored to control people with much vaster resources of all kinds, and therefore a much larger capacity to understand reality. Now we see that there is also an official false narrative, and its false history, just as it exists on Earth, only adapted to the requirements to control the perception of stellar races and their people, exactly as they did and do on Earth with all its cultures. And we are only beginning to understand this disturbing fact. We here are being fed with the same historical lies about Earth and its past, only adapted to the necessary points of view of space observers, and we are also seeing that this is happening on many other places and planets, and not only on Earth. For example, Ari the Irma tiger and I have started to expose the Alpha Centauri, Alfreton people and their historical lies, in another past video. It looks like it is as below so it is above. I will continue with what we know about the real past of Earth, and I will share as much information about it and its past social resets as possible. I will also be explaining time travel again, soon. Thank you for watching my video, and for liking, sharing and subscribing, I appreciate it a lot. And I hope to see you here next time. Take care. With much love, your friend, Mari Swaruu.